Where I find it interesting is where it's on. You see on the graphic here. I'll put the graphic up. The question is, do you still believe progressives can take over the Democratic Party? That is the question that we're going to be examining and where they're going to be talking about here. So let's listen.
As someone who's been in the middle of these fights in terms of like the kind of progressive wing trying to challenge the power centers in the Democratic Party, and this whole strategy of running progressive candidates into the Democratic Party in order to get them elected and to eventually kind of take over the party and to kind of reorient it in this more progressive direction. I know you're still kind of excited about this prospect, but do you still believe, like fundamentally, that it's possible?
No, I wouldn't say I'm excited about it.
But do you still believe that it's possible to actually democratically reorient the Democratic Party into that more progressive direction to kind of wrestle power away from the establishment? I talked about all these really important issues, like in Don't Look Up, the climate crisis, even this kind of gradual process of running candidates into the Democratic Party. We're still talking about a multi-years long project in order to even get to the idea of possibly gaining power. Ultimately, do you think this is enough to...
Okay, multi-year problem. So this is where the class divide comes in, Nick and Ron, where we have discussed on multiple streams, where JB has said, I'm in this situation with my housing. I don't have multiple years. I'm in this situation with my health. I don't have multiple years. Right. But that's where the question. He clearly says that. Now, David Sirota is going to contradict himself in the interview on this particular point, and when he does, I'll point it out for us.
To deal with the crises that America's facing, or do you think there needs to be more?
I'm not sure it's multi-year in the sense that I think one thing recent history has proved.
He's not sure it's multi-year though now. And then later in the interview, he says, I've been doing this all my life. And yes, it kind of looks like it's been unsuccessful. Nick, sorry, I didn't mean to say that while you was drinking something. He almost spit it up. But yes, he says that in the same 5-minute interview that we're playing here. But let's listen.
Has proved is that things can change very fast.
I want to Oscar.
So I'm not sure it's multi-year, but yes, it's not an easy slog. Look, I am in many ways tactically agnostic, and I think people get hung up on, can the Democratic Party get remoored, changed, or do we need a third party? And frankly, I find one of the most annoying kinds of folks out there are the people who say, both parties are corrupt.
Now he's describing us right here.
Yep. He talking
so
shit.
Listen carefully. He's describing us. But let me kind of zero in on what I wrote down here about tactically agnostic. The professional managerial class does this all the time, where they create new terms, new phrasing to describe something. What is tactically agnostic? Because the tactic of overthrowing this system doesn't seem to fall under your classification of technically agnostic. Because if you're agnostic, that means you don't care.
Yeah.
So, but anytime the overthrow the system comes up, he always, becomes a deaf ear.
It's another version of saying nihilist, essentially.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Remember when they were trying to call us nihilists? These people are the biggest defeatists. These people, after Bernie Sanders lost, their ideology after that was like, oh, we must assimilate within the Democratic Party, take crumbs, and beg for them to give us just measly crumbs. On the other hand, Rome, CJ, JB, Sabby, us with revolutionary discipline, we said, fuck that shit. We should be fighting for more. We should be getting each other. Who's the people with real optimism? The real nihilists are the people who rely on the politicians. And then whenever their party loses, whenever there's a red wave, then why are you guys think we don't give a shit about that? Whenever that happens, they're like, oh my God, woe is us. Woe is me. Donald Trump won. It was like, woe is us. It's over. Our democracy is over. Meanwhile, we're like, let's organize. Let's be optimistic. They're the biggest nihilists. That's why what David Sirota is saying here is essentially just a rebranding of that. Technical, what was it again?
Tactically agnostic.
Jeez, look at these managerial class fucks.
These niggas got all kind of ways to tell you that they don't give a fuck about you. They got so many names to tell you that they don't give a fuck. Like, why just say that? Like, oh, I just don't give a fuck. I'm just making this a living. This is just a living for me. That's what the fuck I heard because, dude, you are literally saying people can hold off when we have people dying, man, daily. Children in America starving to death, and you talking about, oh well, it's gonna be like this until like no. And this is why we shouldn't take these people serious because they paid to say dumb shit like that. I know he paid to say dumb shit like that. Ain't no way.
And this is what makes them the misleadership class. It's because this is the lane they have, where they know how to critique the issue 100% to the T and say exactly the right thing. But David, let me ask you this question. What's the use of your reporting on the corruption of the Democratic Party if all you do is tell people to go back and vote for them? You see how that devalues your work? It devalues exactly. It devalues your reporting. You say they're corrupt, but let's go ahead and try to beat this
let me give you guys another example of nihilism. Another example of nihilism. We had a third-party summit just to discuss the idea of what it would mean to have an oppositional third party that is proletariat-based. And then whenever someone mentioned a third party to the booting motherfuckers like David Sirota, they're like, oh my God, that would never work. There's no reason.
He's going to talk about it.
Meanwhile, we're the nihilists. They would say stuff like, we must vote for corruption. And there's no point of trying to build up a third party because it won't work. They're the biggest nihilists in politics. Because at least the people that vote blue believe they're doing it for good. At least the people who vote red believe they're doing it for good. The progressives that vote blue, they're like, man, I know I'm voting for a piece of shit, but what's the fucking point?
And the biggest fallacy because once they see third-party candidates actually getting on these ballots, they fight against them. If not, they don't have them on their shows like Revolutionary Blackout, Sabby do. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. They don't say anything about it. They don't push for these people or nothing. They don't give a fuck.
Let's listen a little more because he speaks to this point that we're bringing up right here. Let's listen to what he says about it.
And anybody who thinks changing the Democratic Party is a worthy goal or can even be done is an idiot. And I'm a smart person because I vote third party. Listen, I am tactically agnostic. I'm about results. What's the fastest way to deal with climate change? What's the fastest fucking way?
Listen to this, how he's contradicting himself. He's about results, but he's going through the Democratic Party.
So what results can they give us that anything has changed for the better? Within his 20 years of being in politics, what results can you give us?
I'm just trying to say, how many times has Nick, you had the numbers, you've tweeted out the numbers, how the black community is less well off now financially, home ownership, everything, wealth is less than when the civil rights movement. It's gone backwards. Go ahead.
Play the video. I'll make the point because I'm gonna make a point that this proves his main thesis, right? But I'll let the video play a little bit more.
Let me play some more.
Democratic Party is a worthy goal or can even be done is an idiot. And I'm a smart person because I vote third party. Listen, I am tactically agnostic. I'm about results. What's the fastest way to deal with climate change? What's the fastest fucking way to deal with the comet, right? If that means a third party can win, great. If that means changing the Democratic Party is faster, great. If that means both those things at the same time, great. I think we're stuck with in a system right now that preferences a two-party system.
I don't like the framing. Let me just say this and replay it. Like the framing is, can we get a third party who can win? But the framing is not, can we get a Democrat who can win? You get it? It's just, can we vote for the Democrats? But the threshold for the third party is can win. And that's the part we have to stop letting these people frame the conversation because they're only framing it through electoralism. Because it's not about winning with the third party. It's about extracting enough from these corporate parties where we can extract some demands. That's what it's about, not winning, but they keep framing it that way.
I am tactically agnostic. I'm about results. What's the fastest way to deal with climate change? What's the fastest fucking way to deal with the comet?
I don't know. That means you gotta say this because this nigga, he getting too uppity for me, bro. Like, who the fuck he think he talking to though? You know what I'm saying? Who the fuck you think you cussing at, bro? You not dumb. You're not dumb. You seen what Biden did the first week? 16 new fracking permits, right? That was his first fucking week in the office. Look what they just did with this new bill. How much land they just so what is the fastest way to deal with climate change? It isn't the Democratic Party at all, because they are the reasons why we are here today. What the fuck is you talking about? Who are you talking to like that?
He's like, I'm edgy. I'm hip.
Check yourself.
He's like, I'm edgy. I'm hip. Look. Fuck.
F-bomb.
Fuck. I'm edgy. I'm hip. Fuck.
You better chill the fuck out, boy. You ain't with that shit.
Let's listen.
If that means changing the Democratic Party is faster, great. If that means both those things at the same time, great. I think we're stuck with in a system right now that preferences a two-party system, and the two parties basically suck. And I don't buy that people are more enlightened or smarter or more pure who say, I'm never going to vote for a Democrat no matter what, because both parties are corrupt.
Because when he says that, like, bro, no one says that. Like, I don't go on my show like, I'm smarter than all you motherfuckers. I'm very humble. I'm like, yo, these are just my opinions through my life experience. He like, all you people that think you can work outside the Democrat Party, you guys think you're so much smarter than us. I'm like,
we are.
You didn't say that. That's just you.
That is a guilt complex. That is a guilt complex. That is a guilt complex because nobody ever says that. Nobody ever puts it in that framing, but that is a complete.
But I do though. We are better than you. We are better. we are better humans. We are better humans as a whole, from getting people out of this Democratic Party, from getting people from you know what I'm saying, not paying attention to these distractions, getting them on the fucking ground, using the resources for their fucking communities. We are better than you. We don't don't give these fucking these war criminals power. We don't. We are better than you.
I agree. We are better. Let's listen.
Voting is not a religious fucking experience.
This is the part when you were talking, Nick, I was trying to remember. This is the reason why the PMC class is starting to use this line. We saw Sam Cedar use it too. Voting not an expression of what you want, because they know they're voting for the Democratic Party. You see how they have to give themselves a moral out by describing voting that way? That is exactly what voting is. Voting is to go to the booth to express that you want the person that fits your values. That is exactly what voting is. But you see how the PMC class, professional, let me put it on the screen for those that may not, after that, I'll put it on the screen, that may not know, but professional managerial class, this is the reason why they're creating this thing of, it's not an expression of who you are or what you want and what you are. But let's listen to this part and listen to his tone, how he gets real like petty and edgy.
Are more enlightened or smarter or more pure, who say, I'm never going to vote for a Democrat no matter what, because both parties are corrupt. Voting is not a religious fucking experience, right? It's not an experience of self-expression. If you think voting is self-expression, you don't. Frankly, in my view, you don't really understand.
Isn't that the literal definition of a democracy?
Oh, Jesus.
Voting is your self-expression, your choice. That's like literally what the essence of democracy is. The expression of your values, your choice. But that's not what it is anymore, because they have to make up some new lane to fit what they are. Because we keep calling them out as fake people. You get what I'm saying? We keep calling them out as fake, and it's like, no, we're not fake. Don't think you're better than us. Don't think you're better than us. Okay?
So I'm gonna let him continue his meltdown, and I'll destroy his argument in a few sentences.
Okay.
And the system you're living in. Voting is one way to try to get what you want. So when you go and vote in a general election and you're faced with a white nationalist fascist versus a shit Democrat, I don't think that's not an enjoyable choice. the system isn't giving you an enjoyable choice, and in that particular situation,
hold on, let's see how you can stop there. I can't even get through this shit. I might have to walk off and let this shit play out because this nigga just trying to frame me. You see how you had to think about it? How can I frame Trump versus Biden? Because both of them are nationalists, both of them are fucking fascists, both of them armed fucking is. What are you talking about, bro? All of these people agree on a major, like Nick was just describing earlier. All of these people agree when it comes to the major things. So what the hell is you talking about? They literally voted for Jim Crow Joe, man. Like you couldn't get no worse than that.
Bro, Joe Biden, the famous anti-racist, the famous tree hugger, the famous. The people pretend
it's unserious.
We don't know who this guy was. Look out of here. Go ahead.
It's completely unserious.
This was hilarious. Like, this is a complete. The last 30 seconds have been glorious. The last 30 seconds has been a meltdown.
Let's listen.
Voting is one way to try to get what you want. So when you go and vote in a general election and you're faced with a white nationalist fascist versus a shit Democrat, I don't think that's not an enjoyable choice. But the system isn't giving you an enjoyable choice, and in that particular situation, you have to try to make a moral choice inside of an immoral system, right? And
let me make this point because I have this written down. David loves to use the morality clause when arguing this point with Democrats, like it's a moral thing. But isn't the moral choice here to overthrow a system that keeps producing choices like this? Isn't that the moral choice? And I'll put that to Nick and Rome just to briefly answer. What do you think? Isn't that the moral choice?
You took the words right out my mouth. Like, what is the use of having a system like this if this is all that they can produce for the people? You know what I'm saying? To vote for, like, knowing that we need better leaders. Not even better leaders, man. We just need a new system, but he don't want to get to that because this system is what got him where he's at today. Got him his house, his nice house, his recognition, his Grammy, Oscar, wherever the fuck he got. You know, it put him where he's at today. So he's not willing to actually challenge capital like a lot of these white liberals are. They won't challenge capital, and this is why they get mad at the tankies and start going after us because we are the only ones who would challenge capital and challenge leadership as a whole. You know what I'm saying? It isn't broken down. They try to break us apart and Black Lives Matter, and then they're doing the gay rights and blah blah. We're gonna we fighting for everything, every fucking thing. And this is what socialism, communism does, and unionship. This is why America and the governments push so hard against you guys unionizing and your fucking and your jobs. They don't want you guys to be friends, et cetera, et cetera. But man, fuck David, man. He rich, he laid back, sipping champagne in the sun. He don't give a fuck about y'all.
Look at his perspective and look how it differs from ours, where he's an institutionalist, CJ. Where he said, well, look at the choices that the system gives us. Are you going to complain about the system? Hey, this is what the system gave us. They gave us a shit Democrat. They gave us a fascist Republican. Hey, what are you going to do? This is the analysis of someone of the upper class, where they truly believe in the institutions. So they're not even going to hint towards options that go outside of that. So they scoff at us building mutual aid societies, us building militias, us building third parties, us relying on ballot initiatives instead of politicians. They scoff at that because they truly are institutionalists, where they only will work within the confine that the capitalist system gave us. But go ahead, CJ.
And if you know in your heart that third-party infrastructure in that particular race hasn't been built, and that thus voting for a third party is incinerating your vote. And
so this is the part about third parties that he's saying. You hear what he's saying. You see, all those who think he's like us and wants democracy, listen to what he's saying about third-party voting.
Structure in that particular race hasn't been built, and
I got to go back a little further. My bad, everybody. Right here.
An immoral system, right? And if you know in your heart that third-party infrastructure in that particular race hasn't been built, and that thus voting for a third party is incinerating your vote and arguably helping the fascists, then doing that as a point of self-expression on your supposed purity is, in my view, I mean, you're welcome to do what you want. In my view, that's not a good decision. Because
you see how he has to disconnect the process of voting for the Democrats away from who you really are. You see how he's trying to disconnect that. But let me say this, because he's about to say another part, and I want to.
I know how you like. He basically did that. No offense, but I'm about to offend you. He's like, in my opinion, you actually like, no. If this is your opinion, you wouldn't be saying this in the first place. What the fuck you talking about?
Actually, let me let him say it first, and then I'll comment. I won't preface it,
because you're mixing up what the voting experience is and is not. I think if there's going to be a third party in this country, a lot of work needs to go into actually building it, and building it in the.
You see, we keep allowing electoralist, that's what he is, to drive the conversation about third parties, and the third parties having to win with candidates. That is not the point initially of third parties. Is to extract away enough people in order to make the two corporate parties bow to some demands. That is the first step, in my opinion, for third parties, not winning. And then here's the second point. You will never get to where a third party wins until you go through those years of third parties losing, but you're building it up. You'll never get there. You see how it's a goal that
actually fighting. Actually,
go ahead.
You actually have to give a fuck about these things that you say that you give a fuck about, right? Then you're gonna actually have to fight, and you have to actually call out them people that are his friends. You know what I'm saying? Whether he's in some type of fucking a C-level celebrity circle somewhere, he got to get rid of his friends or whatever, right? Man,
yeah.
These people they not serious.
Like
they don't fuck about us, bro.
Like his friends at Breaking Points, they just add more and more white people. I'm gonna do a segment on that though.
This motherfucker literally,
like, it's like a left channel that just keep adding white people, and we're like, oh, we're left. Really? We're like, where is the? You're not getting different perspective. That's what I'm saying. And what I mean, I don't know her name, but the Republican girl from Rising with the glasses, blonde girl, she'll be coming on. They do terrible numbers. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, we're getting a group that's great and we're bringing them to our. Why are you bringing them? What are they doing? But anyway, let's save that for another stream, because that shit is ridiculous. But let's listen to some more.
The least glamorous places, not at the presidential level, but winning city council races, winning state legislative races. And I think there's coalition models where you've got DSA endorsing Democratic candidates. You've got the Working Families Party that goes into coalition, sometimes goes into opposition with the Democratic Party. Yep. And I think people who get hung up on, it goes back to this tactics and values thing, this idea that it's a fool's errand and everybody's impure and a terrible person for even thinking that it's worthwhile to try to change the Democratic Party. I just reject that. And I think it's narcissistic, and I think it's bullshit. and
narcissistic. The things they just do, professional minute, they just add whatever the fuck they want. They make up whatever the fuck they want, man.
And I similarly think that anybody who thinks that honest to goodness, real third party building.
You notice how he has to put that caveat, honest to good and real.
What's real? Selling out?
You know how he has to put that.
Yeah, don't trust the workers.
That's what he has to put.
To try to push the Democratic Party to be better and to try to put up alternatives to the Democratic Party. I think anybody who thinks that is unacceptable is too tribal to think clearly about what the goal of politics really should be.
You're talking about tribal, but you want everybody to vote for your goddamn tribe. Right. What you talking about?
It doesn't make any sense.
Just to get good policy that saves us from these emergencies. So to go back to your question, do I think the Democratic Party can be reformed? Yes, no. I think it can be reformed. Can it be reformed fast enough to deal with the crises we face?
You want to get Ginger?
I don't know. Will it be hard to reform the Democratic Party? Absolutely. I've been at it for my whole life. It hasn't been a pleasant process. And arguably it hasn't been successful. There have been success in fits and starts. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean it can't happen, right? No one said this was going to be easy.
I'm going to replay that part now.
You know he's going to say that. He knows he doesn't say that about general strikes or third parties. He's like, I know it's not gonna be. I know it's not gonna be easy. I know we gotta grit. I know we gotta have a lot of grit.
Right? How come he didn't say that about third parties?
He didn't say that about general strikes.
Tony, you saying he got issues? No, this is his problem. He don't have issues. He don't have any issues in life, and this is why he has no sense of urgency to actually push for a third party or even push the voices that's out there that's fighting hard for a third party against his establishment that's so-called holding up democracy. That's democracy in your eyes, kicking off third parties. Fuck out of here, man. I'm tired of these white people, man. Get them on their nerve.
His own argument. He was like, "Oh, don't focus on third parties. That's stupid." But we gotta, making the Democratic Party progressive. All we gotta do is a sacrifice, and we work really hard. I don't think it's possible, but we believe in anything, and we believe in the power of friendship. We can get it done. But we go third party or anything else that is outside the system. Remember, he's an institutionalist. Anything outside that, he just scoffs and like, oh my God, why would you even consider that? When it comes to reforming the Democratic Party, like, you gotta take Hail Marys. Hell, sometimes you gotta take shots, man. You never know. You never know, man.
That's so true.
So to go back to your question, do I think the Democratic Party can be reformed? Yes, I think it can be reformed. Can it be reformed fast enough to deal with the crises we face? I don't know.
Now he knows the question. He knows the answer to that.
He knows
the answer. He knows the answer to that. But you see how he's trying to be coy with that, but he wants to be forceful with other answers.
Will it be hard to reform the Democratic Party? Absolutely. I've been at it for my whole life. It hasn't been a pleasant process.
Yeah, I ain't wasting my motherfucking
He's been at it for his whole life. But all of a sudden now he doesn't know if it's going to take multi-years. Remember earlier he said in multi-years, oh, I don't know if it's going to take multi-years. But he's been at it his whole life.
Oh, I'm dying.
Okay.
He really
could have built the ground
arguably it hasn't been successful.
yeah.
Success and fits and starts. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean it can't happen, right? No one said this was going to be easy, and I would argue that the easy way out is to say, you know what, nothing can be done. Nobody can do anything. And anybody who tries to do anything.
No, the easy way out is picking the Democratic Party over revolution. That's the easy way out.
Is an idiot. That's basically, well, why don't you just kill yourself, right? Like if nothing matters at all, then what are you even doing?
Nobody said nothing matters. And this is why we are voting third party, you fucking idiot. This is why people are voting third party. This is why people are moving to revolution, because everything fucking matters. And you guys have no sense of urgency. You influencers for the Democratic Party is nothing but mouthpieces. The leaders is nothing but mouthpieces for the establishment on top of them. We get nothing at the bottom. And this is why people just getting the fuck on. It ain't about you only feel that way because this is going to stop your hustle. This is going to slow down all that shit that you build, your empire. People start waking up. They stop, joining the Democratic Party and start looking at you like what you are, a Democratic shield.
Listen to this nihilist, guys.
And your movie sucked.
This nihilist was like, hey, man, we can't take over the Democratic Party. What's the point of this? If we can't take over the Democratic Party, you might well kill yourself. Fuck it.
What? And and we're the nihilists.
That's essentially what he's saying. He said, if you don't have something you can believe in, if you really don't believe in take over the Democratic Party, might well fucking kill yourself. That's essentially what he's saying.
You know what? Let me say this. I think he'll say the point, but he's taking too long to bring up the point. I don't want to forget this point. The more and more I've been thinking about it and analyzing this, you know how when people say, oh, I think we need to at all fronts, we need to be doing at all fronts. And I no longer think that. If all fronts includes, when they say, oh, you should use every tool in your toolbox, if one of the tools is voting for the Democratic Party, that is not good, because it is a net negative, because it draws so much energy away from the other things that can be getting done. So to me, participating in electoral politics, when they say, oh, why don't we do multi-prong? No, multi-prong will not work if your primary prong is electoralism. Because think of this, who are you teaming up with? Aren't you teaming up with some capitalists? So how are you going to get the other avenues done? How are you going to do a revolution if you're teaming up with capitalists? This is why I'm saying it can't be. So this whole idea that we, not we as in the three of us specifically, that yes, let's just do both. Let's do this, direct action. And no, because electoralism is a net negative.
Yep.
a net negative. So go ahead if you wanted to chime in.
Let's finish the video, and now I'll make my point to that. That will just like this whole meltdown. It's been hilarious. It's been like a 4-minute meltdown, and
Yeah,
it's easy to pick apart. But I'll let the video finish first.
It's just cynicism.
It is.
Cynicism.
And I get where it comes from, but you can't let yourself conclude that nothing at all can be done. I mean, I think there's a slim chance that the kind of transformative change we need to happen can be done. I agree with that, but I just think like reforming the Democratic Party is one of many avenues to get change. Coalition building with outside pressure groups, DSA, WFP, is another union organizing in the workplace.
DSA and WFP, aren't they Democrats?
Yes.
So what is he?
They are
You see the psyop this fool is doing?
That's another way. Honest to goodness, third party building. I think that's can be worthwhile as well. I'm like an all of the above person. So and just because I'll conclude by saying this, just because I'm all of the above, it doesn't mean like I'm dumb or stupid. I mean, maybe I am dumb and stupid. I don't know, or naive. But like, I don't think it means I'm dumb to think that we should try to be doing all of these things, and I don't think it's dumb to think that somebody is not more pure or better or more enlightened for thinking their tactic is better than other tactics. Like they're just tactics. Maybe we should do them all.
Definitely.
So
Absolutely.
a tactic that's the end of the interview. A tactic that you've been doing for literally decades, by your words, all your life, that hasn't worked. We shouldn't be mad and criticizing that tactic. It's completely unserious to me, Nick and Rome. But that is the end of the clip. So you can take that out.
Yeah. Let me add this, because this destroys his entire philosophy, and we discussed this before when Sam Cedar says essentially the same thing. Like it's almost like they float these talking points in a big group DM somewhere. Literally the exact same thing where he had the same smug, condescending voice because he's a rich prick talking down to workers. Where he's like, "Oh, well, you guys think voting is your values? Do you guys think voting is you picking your enemy? It's not you. It's not an expression of yourself." And they say it in a mocking term.
Yeah.
And I'm asking you guys this question: who benefits from this ideology? Do the working class benefit from this ideology, or do the ruling class benefit from this ideology? Now, it is a fact that the ruling class uses your vote as a stamp of approval and as leverage, whether you like it or not. So when they say stuff like, "Oh, we had to vote for Joe Biden, we had to vote for a Democratic Party because they were the lesser of two evils," it is the exact opposite. So you had black people in this country that led one of the largest civil disobedient protests in decades. So in response to that, the Biden administration, they was calling for police reform, defund the police. In response to that, Joe Biden now proposing a crime bill 2.0. Now he adding 100,000 police, despite the black community protesting law enforcement. And then Jen Psaki was asked about this back when she was press secretary. And she was like, you had Black Lives Matter who supported you. You had a lot of young people who supported you. And you guys are increasing the police budgets. Why are you guys doing this? And they say, well, we ran like Joe Biden did. This is what I was warning people about. Joe Biden ran on increasing the police budget.
Yes.
So then he said, well, you guys voted for me. So I'm fulfilling my mandate to the people. So David Sirota and Sam Cedar's analysis on voting is far off. Your vote is giving them a mandate. So if Joe Biden run as a warmongering right-winger like he did, he's going to say, "Oh, well, you guys voted for me. Why should we change?" So then you know what they do because they want to win? They look at who didn't vote for them. You want to know who didn't vote for them? White women. Despite the rhetoric, white women voted for Trump 2 elections in a row. They're like, Trump is the Democrats are the party of women. No, well, white women already chose their side. It's black women, Latino women, Muslim women, they won't vote against Republicans. So the Democrats know this. So Democrats see that they have to win the votes of the suburban white. Right. So what do? if you realize that you black people vote for you at around an 80 to 85% clip. They're like, oh shit, that vote is won. We don't have to do anything for them no more. We might as well win over the Amy Klobuchars, the Amy Coopers. So you run on what? Tough on crime.
Yep.
You run on the police. You run on stuff like democracy. You run on stuff like civility politics. Meanwhile, you're funding genocides, but you know Karens in suburbia, they don't give a fuck. Joe Biden and Israel be buying Palestine. They're like, we gonna be all. They don't give a fuck. Ukraine, we spend $1 billion in Ukraine. Them white people in suburbia like, oh, fuck. That's who they winning over. So my point is, by voting for these people, you're not voting for the lesser two evils. You're actually doing harm to the community and giving the green light to the capitalists and to the imperialists that what they're doing, the crimes, not a big deal, not a red line. They think David Sirota and Jake Huger, this is my last thing I'm saying, I'll pass it to you guys. They think that even though they vote blue, if they just have a show and they on their show, they go out there and say, oh, Joe Biden is a meanie. Joe Biden's a liar. They think that Democrats see them like, oh man, he voted for us. He got criticism, so you know what? I'm gonna win this person over. No, they're like, oh, you already voted for me. I don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They don't get. They could not care less. They don't care what you say about them as long as you go in the booth and vote for that blue box. That's all they care about.